Let's kick off with introductions, and let's start with Jeff, and then we kind of get back to the
Hey everybody, good to see many of you again. Jeffrey Bustamante with Albuquerque.
And Patty Wilson with Victory Hills and District 6 Coalition.
Good evening, the 6 people. Let's go.
Chuck Holman, Navy Q plan.
Mike Perchowski, the evil one with the 360 camera over here recording the meeting. And I left my contact info because I meant to follow up to see if you posted the link to last month's meeting. It's on YouTube. If you go to my YouTube channel, it'll be right there at the top. You look for the.
I think that we had a mix up and she didn't get it, and I checked with her, but she pays her birthday, so she didn't get today, which
Yeah.
She said she would pick it up on Thursday.
Yeah.
So if you do send me that,
I'll resend it to you.
because I think there was. Okay, great.
Gary, Conbridge, PHNA.
Natalie, Southside Redevelopment.
Sandra, President of Elder Homestead and Vice President of P6.
Premium Parkland. I'm Mullen, Belgrade Picture.
One book, the Parkland Hills.
And Ron Sloan, Parkland Hills. Laura Key, APD Crime Prevention. Rachel Meredith, Public Outreach Volunteer Coordinator, APD. And Maria Wolfson, facilitator for this meeting. And I want to just quickly review everybody of our meeting. So we're always hard on issues, but easy on people because we're all here. We care enough to be here. And it's dinner time. So let's try to be easy on each other in case we did get let's respect the speaker, but also respect the listener. Give everybody a chance to step up and step back. So that the opportunity and so listen to learn, seek to understand, instead of determining whether their grammar was correct, try to understand what the community across. And understand our time constraints. We actually got started closer to on time, so we can use both, so that's great. And we try to be conscious of the solution. So does anybody have a guideline you want to add?
If you can't see the camera, it can't see you. And the further you are in the background, the harder it is to pick up the audio. But the audio last month seemed to be pretty good. And I'll just keep learning the setup here.
Well, and many thanks, Mike, for being our audio and technical person. We appreciate that. So, okay, then we don't have areas here yet. I think she is joining us late with an update on the Gateway Housing Navigation Center. But we wanted to make the priority at the beginning of the session, the presentation by our guest tonight, and that is Terry Brunner, who is our director of our Metropolitan Redevelopment. And Terry, floor is yours.
All right, you want me to come up and get me? Okay.
We'll play you back, and then Mike's camera will pick you up.
Okay. Great. Well, it's lovely to be with you all tonight. First off, I want to compliment whoever made the brownies. Is that Maria?
Yeah.
That figures.
My special brownies.
Still active tonight.
There's a reason that CBD.
I didn't think of that.
To go back.
So I think I was here, with the same group about a year ago. So I recognize a couple of cases, but we're very involved in this part of Albuquerque. And I run an agency called Metropolitan Redevelopment. It's been around since the 70s, but also a lot of people have not always heard of it. It was an agency that was formed very much out of urban renewal movements in the 70s, and it attempts to fight blight, and that's the statutory term for blight and undeveloped or areas in need of development. And we, like I said, have been doing that since the 70s. So as you can imagine, the agency's been used a lot of different ways over the years, but you probably know us for projects like Old Albuquerque High was one of ours, a very successful project for us. And then we've had a lot of housing development. The Broadstone project, Knob Hill was one of ours. It's more recent. But really, it's an agency that's been used in a lot of different ways over the years. At the moment, the main thing we do is buy, sell, and redevelop properties across metropolitan redevelopment areas. City, there's 22 metropolitan redevelopment areas. We're in what we call the near heights. I know that may not make sense geographically to you these days, but it was declared a while back by council. But we're in one of those metropolitan redevelopment areas now, and we typically go after commercial areas. We don't redevelop single-family residential areas. So we pretty much, more or less stayed in the main thoroughfares, San Mateo, Gibson, Central. So in those areas, we are allowed to, as we like to say, apply our special powers, our superpowers, which is, number one, we can avoid the anti-donation clause. So we're one of the few agencies in the state that have that ability to do a public-private partnership and give money to a private developer under a contract. We don't give it away, but we are able to do those kinds of deals, and that's been our superpower since the 80s. Is we can incentivize development by giving a developer a piece of land to put housing on, or something like that. No other city agency can do that except for our affordable housing group that has to abide by certain federal standards. So we can be pretty creative in how we apply those types of tools. We also have a tax abatement program for developers. We can put out bonds for development, which is what we did on the Broadstone project for housing. We also very often go out and buy, like I said earlier, buy, sell, and redevelopment properties. So we just bought 12201 Central, which is just past Juan Tabo, next to the Lake Slaughterburger, which is 1.5 acres. Trying to get the lot next door to get a 2.5 acre lot right on Central, housing or mixed use or something. But that's been our strategic approach at the moment, is to try to buy and develop properties in this high interest rate environment for developers. Often the property can be a huge incentive, so we're trying to entice them in, do some housing development in particular. So those are the types of tools we use and have used in the past. Like I said, we're involved in 22 areas, mainly up and down Central, and up and down 2nd and 4th Street, Broadway. A lot of those 11 of our redevelopment areas are in the downtown area, which is logical because that was the oldest area, so it needs a lot of redevelopment help. But those are some of the things that we do. This Near Heights MRA, just so you know, Metropolitan Redevelopment Area, is generally San Mateo to Wyoming and Lomas to Gibson, to give you a sense of that. And what I told you last time that I'll say again is our funding is very much up and down. So our general funds that I receive every year just to manage my office is the same as it was in 1994. So we're not some big expanding agency funding wise, but councilors very often give us funding for particular areas of the city. Like they'll ask me, they'll give us $1 million to invest on Central or something like that. That's been done over the years. And we also utilize bond funding. And in my discussions today, I'll talk a little bit about bond funding versus general funds. But we are usually in the bond package every 2 years, which is that process has started. And you know that if you went to the mayor's meeting the other day at the library. Those bond funds, I generally get about 4.5 million or 4 million every 2 years. Bond funds are restricted by state law, so I can only use that for property purchase and studies and things like that. I can't just turn a property over to the developer with bond funds because those are restricted because they're generated by state property tax. However, because we're home rule, and we get gross receipts tax and general funds, things like that. Those are the funds we can be creative with. So some of the new things that we've been doing lately, and one of the big revolutionary ideas we have moving forward is the idea of tax increment financing. And I'll try to not make this too much of a tax discussion. I know that's not always popular, but we are catching up with the rest of the nation, and we passed a law up in Santa Fe 2 years ago and approved it last session to allow us to declare an MRA area a tax increment finance area. So what that means is we can collect a portion of the growth of gross receipts tax, property tax in a particular area. So we set a baseline growth, let's say it's $1,000 for this area. That's the baseline level of property taxes coming in. If it goes up to $1,100, we can take up to 75% of that if it grows. So it's basically a program where it incentivizes you to try to invest in an area to get that revenue up. It's commonly used around the US. So those of you that travel, been to Phoenix, been to Denver, been to Colorado Springs, been to downtown Tucson, those are all tax increment financing districts. The Newich baseball stadium in Denver, that district, all tax increment financing. So we can now take city property taxes and county property taxes and leverage them with tax increment financing and city, county, state gross receipts. The estimate for that in an area like our East Central MRA is $150 million over 20 years. That is just a complete total game changer. My budget every year is $1.2 million for the entire city. So if we got the equivalent of 10 million in for East Central or something like that, that's just a completely different world. So when people come to us and they say, why isn't the city buying that rundown such and such property over there? Partially it's because we don't have any money in reality to do creative development, purchase stuff, but sometimes highly restricted. My agency gets more funding, we can be more creative in what we purchase. So I just toured the Kirtland Dental facility today. It's over on Wyoming and Central. I told the person who's interested in that, if I buy it with bond funds, I can't give it to you. I would have to approve it and I could lease it to you. But if I had enough funding in my general funds, or if I had tax increment financing, I could buy the building and I could give it to you as part of a development agreement. So it allows for much more active development efforts. So that's the big chain. I mean, this will be big into the next 20 years. In the fall, we'll start to see these districts come up. In some areas we've already studied. And like I said, it's a complete total game changer for actually the entire state. There's no city that's done this. It's going to start as a new program this year. So that is really a massive change that we're not going to see next year, but we will see in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Let me talk a little bit about what we're doing around here. So just one project we have that we're really excited about is we own the lot. It used to be the Blue Spruce lot next to Tilden Market. We are giving that to Soul Housing, develops 5 units of affordable and market rate housing on that site with retail on the bottom. So we're very excited about that. And we are trying to purchase some other properties in the vicinity to try to maybe get some, kind of leverage off of that, something like that going. The mayor is very interested in purchasing the out-of-market property. We've been talking to some developers about that. If there's any potential there. That's a problem property for us. And we're looking at the Griff slot as well up on Central. And then coming down this way, I'll just say for those that are interested before I get down to Captain San Mateo, we have attempted to purchase the CVS lot on Louisiana and Central, the Walgreens on Central and San Mateo, and they are not selling. Those are not likely to sell. I just want to make that absolutely positively clear. We're the only ones from the city that have been negotiating on that. So if you hear any alternative information, they have probably not been in negotiations with that owner. But if you've read some of this information lately about pharmacy deserts and stuff, one of the big problems is both the CVS on San Mateo, CVS on Louisiana, Walgreens in San Mateo and Central have lease agreements with those corporations. And they are willing just to continue to pay those leases rather than sell the property for the next 20 years. So if the only way we can get a property like that is to completely go crazy in a sense, quadruple their asking price or something. So the asking price, was about $2 million on the Walgreens, but unfortunately, there's been a lot of press on that. We tried to limit the press on that site. We asked folks not to talk about our negotiations, but they did anyway, and the price has been driven up. So, so it's not always great to put a laser focus on those properties because I can be a sneaky guy sometimes. I like to sneak in, try to grab the property before they raise the price, but that's opportunity has passed those two, unfortunately. Same goes with some other properties around here. But anyway, moving down to Catherine and San Mateo, we're really excited because we have control over the Catherine and San Mateo lot that has the ACS facility and the marketplace there. We have about 2.8 acres left over. And in the next few weeks, we'll put out a request for interest, which is a common process where you send this out to developers essentially, and you say, hey, we got 2.8 acres, and we would like to see some mixed use or a grocery store or a pharmacy or something else or any idea you can come up. We take any and all ideas. We don't limit it too much. And then from that request for interest, we kind of winnow down what we're seeing, what the possibilities are, and kind of what's a legit idea, like what's a cash flowing idea that can actually happen. And then we form an RFP, a formal RFP where developers can come in or community groups or nonprofits or whatever, and they can come in and say, we're going to do X, Y, and Z on the site. Here's who our lender is. Here's how much cash we're bringing. Here's the incentives we need from the city, all those types of things. But we've been asked to move really fast on this and get it moving. So in the next few weeks, like I said, we'll be taking ideas for that. We'll let the community know if you know of anybody or know of any ideas or talk to folks who are interested in that property. But again, we're taking all comers, any idea that's out there. And because we've already heard, I like this and I don't like that, stuff like that. So we're doing our best to try to figure out what we could put there, which would really activate that corner and get a lot more activity going. We invested in the marketplace. We put $400,000 in that, additional funds to make sure it got complete. And so we're excited about that one. It's a nice opportunity. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention, I would call like a sleeper. And I really, I want to say that because I want you all to get intrigued by it and really pay attention to it because it's a fantastic opportunity. I served in the Obama administration, and back when we started, HUD put out a new program called Choice Neighborhoods. And it's a program that is based on public housing, but has the intention of lifting up the entire community around the public housing. So you come in with a proposal to renovate some public housing, but you do the parks as well, where you do the streets and curbs and gutters, where you do some retail development or whatnot. I worked for 8 years trying to get New Mexico to apply to this program, and we never got it. Because what the program is up to $3 million to write your plan. And then if your plan is accepted, up to $100 million grant, straight up grant. You don't have to match the grant. You get $100 million. Commonly these days, it's about 50 million, but the max is 100. But that is an incredible amount of federal money. It's more money than I will see in my duration at this agency. So this is coming to your area. So the borders of that Choice Neighborhood program are San Mateo to Wyoming, Lomas to Gibson, excluding the state fairgrounds. So I know those community meetings have started. Our Health and Human Services Department, Health, Human Services and Homelessness Department, right, Triple H. They are leading this effort. I know that the meetings have started. HUD has been out here twice now. but this is one you should be jumping all over. And I'll give you an example of what Tucson did with this last year. So Tucson got $50 million. They used that 50 million to leverage an additional 350 million. So, if you have 50 million in cash, we can help you go find lenders, go find other grant programs to leverage that money and double, triple, quadruple it. They are replacing 470 public housing units and renovating an entire 12-story apartment complex. And then around that apartment complex, they're building 4 new parks with that $50 million and that leverage fund. And that's including all the infrastructure around that, curb and gutter, the streetscape. Because the idea here is you want kids to, grow up in a great apartment, walk out the door, hit a great park, maybe have another connection to a bus line or whatever it is, to a school. That's what this program is. And it's the first one New Mexico has ever gotten in the last, whatever it is, 15, 16 years that this program's been around. So if you all want money for this district, that is the money source. I just want to say that. Your counselor, the mayor, would not be able to come up with $50 million for it. So I really want to emphasize that point. I'm super excited about that one. We're involved in it. We've been talking to HUD about what else we can do in that area. And that 50 million doesn't have to go into one housing site, go into all the associated stuff around. And you're, like I said, you're the only ones in New Mexico that have this, and only ones in the city that have it. So that is a huge opportunity. So those are a couple things that we have boiling at the moment. Did I leave out anything? Maria, that you wanted me to?
No, I would just add on to that Joseph Montoya, who's our housing, the director, my department, this person on that plan that they're putting together. And he would have been here tonight, joined Terry for his presentation, but he got pulled in some of the constructive conversations on him, Councilor Sanchez. But he will be here either in the June meeting or before that. But what he wants you to tell me is if you want to be part of the planning group for the neighborhood association, and you can just put a star next to your name on the sign-in sheet, he's going to invite you to the next planning session. They have the plan for Troy's neighborhood. Yes, they have planning funds right now. They're working with a planning consultant to really try to get the strongest plan put together for this area. And like Terry said, if we get that funding, it's 50 million to 100. So it's really an exciting opportunity to receive planning grant funding. Because how many get the planning grants?
Well, not very many. Yeah, most of them get the overall one. So you reminded me of a couple other things, if you don't mind me interrupting, to say that we also have a couple other things going on. So we put out an RFP for $1.5 million in incentives from our office and $4.4 million from Joseph's housing office for conversions on Central, Knoxville. We only received 2 respondents to that RFP. I want to emphasize that a little bit. I think I mentioned this last time I was here. Was we put out incentives for developers. We suffer a bit in this town for lack of developers. Like I said, we're putting out an RFP with $5.5 million, $6 million for someone to do a conversion, even if it's a 20-unit conversion, and we got 2 responses. I just want to emphasize that. So the energy around redevelopment and developers that want to do stuff is pretty low, fortunately. So what we are trying to do, big picture, is market projects regionally. So somebody who's a very skilled developer out of Phoenix, or Denver, or Houston wants to come here, we're kind of flyover territory, or the hole in the donut, and that's really hard. So when the Walmart property came up, we don't have anybody that can develop that property. I want to emphasize that. We don't have some group that's just going to come in and say, yeah, we want that massive property and know exactly what we want to put on there. It's a tough game. So, so we are working hard at that. We are really trying to get some smaller developers to grow a bit. We did a nice project with a guy named Evan Davis, right next to Highland High School, called Ocotillo Ridge, which is 20 townhomes on vacant lots. So if you know the antique shops off of San Mateo and Central, there's these vacant lots behind them in the Highland Theater. Those lots, just as a little interesting factoid, have never been developed in the history of Albuquerque. There's no water to that site, there's no sewer, there's no electric, and that's in the middle of that neighborhood and never been touched. So this guy, Evan, we love this guy because he took the risk and he's putting up 20 townhomes that are very nice. We're hoping he gets his hands on maybe those other lots. The other strategy we have is to, build as many units as possible. We're trying to build as much affordable as possible, but we know that when you build a lot of market rate, it's opening up a lot of availability for folks and maybe opening up some more affordable as well. So what we're suffering from is lack of units, period, any style. Affordable is harder to do for a developer, so it has to be heavily incentivized. But we're trying to do two at once, both of them at once, market and affordable. We're trying to look at workplace type housing too. We're looking at base housing, so we'll be having a meeting with developers on the 2,500 new airmen coming to the base. Those airmen bring with them a $1,500 monthly stipend for apartments. So we're looking at trying to entice some developers to say, hey, build market rate for those airmen, get that guaranteed rent in from those guys, and then subsidize some affordable next year or something like that. So we're trying to be as creative as possible with that. And then my last thing I'll say is lots and buildings. If you know lots that come up for sale, if you know we can get a deal on them, if you see dilapidated buildings that could be bought and renovated, we are very interested. So Maria can send out my contact info, but we love to hear about those things. We'd love to hear about those lots. I'm appraising the 2 lots across from Franklin Plaza that have been vacant for decades on the other side of Central. I don't even know what those were, but I do know that when you do a satellite image, there's a rock cocopelli in the middle of it, which is kind of cool. But anyway, so those are kind of funky lots. Those funky lots, if we can find that person that owns them and is sitting on those suckers, we want to
Franklin Plaza?
Franklin Plaza, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought everybody knows that the notorious Franklin Plaza.
Central Waterville.
East Central, so Franklin Plaza is Wantabo and Central, Wyoming Central.
No, Waterville.
Wantabo and Central. Yeah, it's a big shopping center with a Wiener Schnitzel.
Oh, yeah.
Been vacant forever. We tried to buy it. Unfortunately, it requires a few $1 million environmental remediation. We're kind of this close.
Was that due to the creating?
Yeah, I believe it was. Yeah, and some other stuff allegedly. But then you go across Central from them, and from that lot on what would be the south side, I guess, of Central, and there's these 2 strip lots that go up and down Wantabo.
So what's 22? So where does that sit in relation to the 2201 Central?
Yeah, 12.
Already doing?
12201 Central is just to the east, a little bit at the Blakes.
Okay, and that's one you guys already.
We just
have.
bought that.
So this is west.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. And then, I'm sorry, I just had a question. How many units are going in at the Blue Spruce property you got?
65.
You said 2,500 airmen?
Yes.
Why do we have that many more people? Is that like a full new?
Part of Space Force.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's actually kind of like Space Force is in Colorado Springs, but this is a related sub Space Force. But we're excited about that.
So I have a couple questions.
Sure.
The first one was about the lot on Tappan and San Mateo. So we've been invested in that since the get-go, and so I know you talked about just putting out the word, hey, does anybody want to come in and build here? And then you narrow it down and send out RFPs. Where in that process do the neighbors get input?
So I understand that there was some neighborhood input on that lot a while back, so we're gonna go back and look at it. So I did hear from some people that showed up at the structured conversations at the library that told me that I should go back and look. Because there were some concerns about the type of housing and stuff like that. I don't know yet. I haven't looked.
Is that when we walked onto the property? Because I think I went to that.
Maybe,
When you went,
yeah.
and you walked, and you had
Before my
nothing.
time. I think.
Yeah, okay.
There's one when you're in East, the yellow, Reese had it up down in Salem County.
Yeah.
Wow,
so-
that was recorded.
Yeah, I'll check it out. So, we'll go through a process of identifying who the neighborhood association is most likely and send notices out to them to make sure they see the RFI.
Natalie and I as well on the boards.
Great.
Love to do. We're kind of re-engaging. people.
Yeah, okay.
Great.
And
So-
I'd like to say Parkland Hills were on our whole neighborhood runs along that lot,
Yeah.
on the other side of San Mateo. And so Parkland Hills could get notification, we
Okay.
are an adjoining neighborhood to that.
Well, I think what I'll do is I'll probably send it to this group, most likely, Peter maybe.
I did.
So, but that's what we would want to do. So you need to tell us, kind of what type of things you would want to see.
Okay.
Because I know like back
That
then, we,
meeting was at the Cesar Chavez Youth Center.
Okay.
That was our latest one. What is that, like 3 or 4? Or
yeah,
5?
because like back then we all had ideas, but now that we're in 2024
Yeah.
and you can
Yeah.
have other people that would come, I think we would have to refresh our
Well, now
our
lots
input
changed.
and
Yeah.
such.
Yeah, that lot, I guess, is now getting complete, so it's a
Yeah.
little different than it was before, when it was 3.5 acres.
Yeah.
Now it's 2.8, there's a pond in the middle apparently, I have to investigate, so that would kind of change maybe what you can do.
And
Is that a pond?
There's just drainage.
Yeah, they have a drain.
They're drainage.
Okay.
But I also want to, I also would like you guys know, this is a little bit of a bird walk on that, but for your next meeting or one of the meetings this summer, if you want, you can have your meeting at the new ACS building. So you can see the building, see the public spaces, but actually see how it's set up, and that might refresh your memory of the common room or the lot. Okay.
Did you have something else, Sandra, to do?
There were plans for one of the police subdivisions was gonna get moved there.
Right,
There was plan for an open space,
Mayor
green
Chavez,
space.
yeah, pulled that out from under there and it
I'm not
expanded the Louisiana station instead.
I understand, but I mean, what I'm saying is the drawing was already down as a proposal. Somebody had.
Yeah, right.
And they-
I think there's a sub about quarter mile.
Well, because even the last public meeting we had, they showed
About a
some
mile.
greenery and vegetation and a pedestrian path that was diagonal, there was no pond at the last. public
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the pond is a feature that is sort of, so we would just have to investigate it, floodplain or like the drainage or what, but. So because we want to be able to tell the developer they're gonna have to deal with it or not.
Right.
So, but those things like, the type of greenery, walking paths, where you want it facing, in a sense, like that's all important.
So I remembered my second question. It has to deal with the Walgreens and the CVS properties that are vacant, that you said that you have a chance of getting them, they would rather just take them themselves.
Yeah.
How long is that lease? And or are they responsible to the residents around there for all the stuff that happens on their property?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So Walgreens, I know the remaining lease is 10 years. And it's owned by a gentleman out of California who owns several of them. I want to say the CVS is around 15.
15 years?
Yeah, so, I know the neighborhood association has years of time, really opposed that. So it's unfortunate that it's now shut down, but what we're gonna do is, I think, or what we can do is we would use code enforcement and cite them and try to get them to comply, try to get them to put up
And just
fencing.
keep adding fines every day?
Yeah, and, it could become a nuisance property. But we've seen generally with these properties that they're run by a national corporate group. They usually end up trying to comply. You know, they're not like going to be totally absent. So we might get something out of them. But yeah, they both definitely need some fencing. And we have talked to APD about increased patrols in that area because we do have a new purchaser of the San Mateo Bank of the West Tower that we hope will be renovating that. So we talked to them about trying to increase security in that area too. One thing that's interesting that's on the positive note for that particular development, not to go too far off the topic, but we did meet with those developers at the San Mateo Tower, Bank of the West Tower, and they're out of Houston. And the number one reason they wanted to be in that location was the art line, which made us really happy to hear. So they were into the art line.
Right.
So they said, you know, in any other city, they said you would want to be right next to that public transportation. They want nurses living there that are taking the art line down to UNM to work at the hospital. They want students there. That's their clientele. So they're like, they said, whoever this was, you know, we don't always hear this in Albuquerque, but they said, whoever designed this was genius. Like, it's perfect. Yeah. So that was refreshing to hear.
Terry,
But I just want to make sure that I get to you. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I.
Sorry, Peter. Yeah.
we've been sending letter after letter after letter on the fencing.
On those lots.
It's not becoming a nuisance.
Yeah.
It is a nuisance.
You're talking about Walgreens?
Both of them.
Yeah, okay.
The walls were burned,
Yeah.
I'm not sure where to buy drugs, let me tell you where you can go.
Yeah.
Walgreens, yes, or an art station. You know, I'm not trying to be facetious, but it's absolutely true.
Yeah. We'll look into
So, I mean, who do we have to talk to? I don't believe it's you.
Well, no, you can call me. I mean, my theory is what I will do is call code enforcement and send them out.
So
And then they'll walk around.
I wrote the
property.
code enforcement.
Yeah.
And I wrote the Doug Small.
Okay.
And I wish he was here, but, I haven't got a
So
reply from
BCP
Doug.
on the letters, please.
Okay, I will,
Yeah.
in ages, you know, what.
I think there were a couple over here. So.
I- I've got a few questions.
Yeah.
Um, let me just throw them all out and then you can answer whichever ones you want.
Yeah.
The 5555 Zuni property with all the empty buildings there, are you working on anything there? And kind of related to that, you mentioned the pharmacy desert, which was in the news this morning, but what are you doing about pharmacy and grocery deserts in this neighborhood?
Yep.
I suspect, or at least the community perception, and maybe we're wrong, tell us if we are, is that what's made it more profitable for Walgreens and CVS to just pay leases on an empty building and for all these places to close is they were losing so much money to theft that, great, correct me on that, but so is that why, something tells me that may be why you're having a hard time attracting developers to this area. And just a point of clarification, this is probably my easiest question. You talked about conversions, starting from Girard, I guess Girard
Yep.
going west, or not Hill going east, I'm sorry. Do you mean converting motels into permanent living?
Yes.
Okay, so that was the easy question. Then so the other ones there.
Yeah. So I don't know 55 Zuni. I'd have to look it up.
That's the northeast corner of Zuni and San Mateo. It's where there was a grocery store
yeah.
until Walmart
Yeah.
drove it out of
Yeah.
business,
Mhm.
where there was or is not, so where the dollar
Yeah.
stores are
Like a little
closed.
restaurant there.
Several
Yeah.
discount stores there closed.
We're looking at that. We don't have, well, so when Walmart closed, we looked at Walmart, and I talk to Walmart every month. And I talk to the folks out of the property division. So, get status updates on where they're at with that. But part of our strategy is if we couldn't buy it, we looked at stuff around it because that shopping center is kind of failing. And we need ideas for it. You know, that's the main thing. We need good ideas of what that could be successful. We have a bit of a problem in that area, and that is like when Walmart had tried to get people to lease to Walmart, the type of industries they had that would go there were just not great. And we weren't real thrilled about it. And
That's
neither was
after they
Walmart.
closed.
Huh?
After they
closed, they tried to lease out that building and they had, damaged furniture, warehouse, stuff like that. That just is not really generating any. So, I think that, we would certainly be willing to look at a plan for that area of what could be done. It's tricky. You have a shopping mall like that with different elements on it. So you have a shopping mall and then you have like restaurant, another funky restaurant, like a donut shop or something like that. And they're all kind of, or then you have a big lots, whatever. So it's a tough one. It's a bit of a puzzle. So we need a little vision on it and maybe some goals to get to. So we'll look at a study for it, but that's our best idea at the moment, unfortunately. I wish I had a really solid one. But
What's currently the AutoZone was a couple of different types of grocery stores which were driven out of business by Walmart when Walmart opened up across the street. They just couldn't compete.
Right.
And now there were some cheapo, not much produce places to the east of that in those spots, and now there's nothing.
I
So
know,
I
it's a
think the
shame.
community would say food,
yeah,
grocery stores.
I think,
Go with Dion.
yeah, Dion's there, yeah.
Yeah, when you
Yeah, and I remember when we all protested the Walmart. But now we love the Walmart. So
Speak for yourself.
But anyway, so I'm just kidding. So the other thing too, like the talking point that crime is driving out these businesses is absolutely correct. And that, has never been brought up by Walmart, Walgreens, CVS. That's kind of a popular legend, but it's really not true. So what is the answer is Walmart is a international corporation. That model store was a very old model. It's not their new model store. They're selling stuff there that they don't necessarily want to sell. They've got a new model, so they don't need it. They dispose of it. They dispose of it at the same time. They dispose of a bunch of other Walmarts across the country. Same goes for CVS, and the same goes for Walgreens. They're constantly adjusting where they sell stuff and what their model is. So I think we're unfortunate we had a accumulation of those types of businesses in that one spot. That brings me to another thing. That's food desert. So I worked for the USDA when we came up with the concept. And I worked probably at 50 grocery stores around the state, every form, size grocery store. And grocery stores are very complex, more than we can probably understand, but grocery stores have a lot to do with who your distributor is, more than where your clientele is. So there's a lot to think about with grocery stores. And USDA would not consider the Walmart site a food desert because you have an El Mesquite right there. You have a Sprouts down the street. You have a Smith's over on San Pedro, I believe. So there are some over there. However, over here, you have a completely different situation. And when you come deeper this way, I think you have more of a food desert coming off of Gibson, really. So I would like to look at that Catherine site as a decent place, or maybe further east and a little bit inward as a place where you really want to get a decent supermarket. Because you go too far, you're hitting Tramway and you got a Sprouts and another Smith's.
That'd
Right?
be
So
transformative.
right in between would be good. So, but it's going to take some work. We got to find like the perfect spot with distribution, cold storage, all that good stuff, right? So we're willing to work on it. We're willing to fund studies and plans and marketing and all that stuff through outreach. We have a really good relationship with Smith's. And just for fun, I like to tell people that I called Smith's the other day in Colorado, and they love their store at Yale. That's one of their best producers in the Southwest. And they're willing to expand it. Yeah. So, we're talking to them about a potential expansion in that area because they do so much business. So we really are looking at those opportunities too. Like, is there a possibility the El Mesquite guy wants to do a different concept? Maybe grow a little larger, maybe serve a different clientele or an expanded clientele. So expansion's far easier than relocation. So we'll look at things like that as well. I agree that there's not enough food options, but I think we have to be really strategic on where we put it. And I also think we have some really nice opportunities potential on that San Mateo corner. If those guys from Houston redevelop that tower, it kind of changes the game in that part of town, and maybe we can get at that shopping mall,
Sorry, one
So,
other
yeah.
quick question about that and then, okay. Many months ago, I heard the mayor claim that there was housing already underway at that corner. Now you're just saying that these people are barely buying it and
Oh.
are we talking about two different,
Yeah,
the second tower?
The one next to one
There's
just
two
north.
towers.
The
Yeah.
11 story.
Is
They
the,
bought one, and they either have bought or are in the process of buying the second.
okay, so they haven't moved forward really on either one of them as far as,
No, they bought.
And I thought the.
no, as far as developing it. Was-
Yes. Yeah. They released plans the other day that were in the Business Weekly.
That's
Um, yeah.
PAH, Jackson and some. That's already built.
Oh, yeah, we did. We helped with the PA. Yeah. That's a different one. But this is San Mateo Central, the two big office towers.
Mhm.
Yeah. So they are moving very fast by development standards.
That's
And-
one that's blocked north of something.
Yeah. Right. There's two of them next to each other. So one was a state office building or whatever. But we were trying to get them to move faster. That's the other thing, is we need them to keep that momentum going. So we worked with police in the area.
Is Fair and Square off the table?
Fair and Square is off the table. We just talked to the family 2 weeks ago. They will not sell,
Okay.
unfortunately, because we are trying to do a deal to move some additional kind of grocery food service stuff up there. And they have a bunch of cold storage.
Yes.
So it was a bummer that they were not available. If anybody knows a vacant grocery store as well up there, we're very interested. Sorry.
I live in the Fair West neighborhood. And they are working on the smaller state building. And they're working there every day. There's tons of drilling. They got rid of the Bank of America stuff that was just bringing all kinds of weirdness. But I didn't know about the other. Is it the same company that
Yes.
was?
Oh, I'm sorry. The same company. I'm sorry.
Is it the same company that has 300 copper for to build the bigger building on the corner of Central?
No.
A different company.
That used
Does that one?
300 copper.
Yeah.
No, this Houston company only has the two high rises.
That's the name.
Those are the only two.
Yeah, but the 11-story one is 300 copper. And
Oh,
I
it is.
thought that
Oh,
was
okay.
a different developer,
Oh,
because they're already under, they have their.
Right, they're already working on
Yeah.
it. So there are two different developers.
I'm pretty sure it's-
our understanding is it's the same developer on both towers. They have come, well, I can't speak to what they've asked from the city, but we've been involved with them on the taller of the two, which I think is on the corner of San Mateo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I was looking.
What is going on the south side of Gibson?
What's going on next year? I know it's not your property, but what's the latest on that?
There was a lot of energy around it a couple of years
Ton
ago.
of construction going on now, and they lowered the wall.
Oh, really?
They lowered, the wall's only about this high.
Did you guys go to the constructive conversation, get one of those cards where you do the keyword
Oh,
codes that you
yeah.
can put it in
Look
the
up
address
something.
and find out what's going on? 'Cause I haven't done it yet, but I just heard about it. Did you guys hear about it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I scanned it.
You can check on who's applied for a permit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So scan that QR code.
Yeah, they have the North Dakota, not that the
You
state
should be able
center
to look it up.
thing. Yeah,
those
so
are
it's like
different
east,
things.
yeah, but this is like east of that stuff, right?
It is east of it by about.
It's east of Carlisle, about.
Yeah.
Small, a block east of Carlisle, and just south. I mean, what's the?
Because I know like Dale Decker was in on it, there was a group out of Texas, Dale Decker, there's like a whole bunch of them, they're all doing it like.
Yep.
And they were pushing the perimeter back, it was like 500 feet or
That's right.
something like that.
They were
Other
thinking of
days, yeah.
like office space and retail, things like that.
Yeah, they kept telling us like breweries and movie theater, like all this excited, it's gonna be like uptown of the southeast, but like, I don't know.
Well, they started building stuff on the north end of the runway too. That's quit all of a sudden. There was gonna be a big hydrogen hub there.
Yes. I don't know the status of, Blue Halo. Blue Halo. Blue Halo was supposed to build a couple hangars out there, and they're doing the hydrogen batteries for planes. I think that's.
Do you know anything about, Truman, at the corner of Truman and Copper? There's, heavy steel being erected there. It's in the back of that, motor place that used to be a bowling alley. The car place.
Oh, yeah. So that is that's a new facility being built by those folks that, I can't remember if it's some sort of recreation, like indoor soccer or something, or not. Maybe some housing. It's on the backside of, off of Central, right?
It's been a nice skating rink. It's been.
Yeah.
Well, now,
It's been a little
but
car
someone-
race track.
Again, this is the next door, but someone said they saw a sign posted that the First Nations pulled a permit, and I thought First Nations had something going on over there.
There's a sign, I had coffee with Peter the other day, and I passed by that sign and I looked at it real quick. I thought it was something recreation, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
There is a big sign up though on the
Okay.
copper side that you
Okay,
can check out.
again, this was something I saw
Yeah.
on the next door, and
Well, don't believe it.
I know. The people that know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you find that lost dog?
Huh?
Did you find the lost dog?
Oh, no. I'm like, oh, I actually did find a lost dog a couple days ago.
It's always about a lost dog.
Yeah.
Or found them.
Or a
Found dog.
or a rehome.
Rehome dog.
Yes.
So,
Looks like it's existing stuff, not.
But I think you're supposed to be able to.
well, there's maps where you can look up
Put an
permits.
address and just find out exactly.
Yeah.
You'll be able to put in an address and then it tells you what's going on that site.
And
It's in its very early forms, so supposed to be fully on in a couple months, but you should be able to try it.
So, I know Evan Davis also has a piece of property on Garfield, which is in
Oh,
the
really?
university MRA.
Oh, cool.
And it's, cause I included into that, and, he was going to try and do that concurrent with the project near Highland.
Yeah.
And the bank was like, get that one done first,
Yeah.
and of course then interest rates, so that one is cleared and fenced and sitting.
Oh, good.
But, he's does really great work.
Yeah.
So I have two other questions. Does it do any good, to try to put pressure on corporate level of CVS, Walmart? I mean, do letters, emails, phone calls, are we just like gnats?
No, I think if you do letters, emails, phone calls from an organization, like a neighborhood that's adjacent to it, that's more powerful than an individual.
Okay.
So in the case of Walmart, we have been heavily involved with their government affairs office and trying to make the case that this should be maybe a philanthropic endeavor by Walmart, and they can dispose of the property by giving it to the city and having us put it to community use. They are not objectionable to that. Unfortunately, they're always saying, well, we want to give one more shot at trying to sell it. And, but we feel like we make a little progress every month with them, that maybe they would just be willing to turn it over or turn it over for a really low price. But hearing from the neighborhood association, I think does help.
is there a way to
so-
get the contact?
I can try to find out. Yeah. But with Walmart and CVS, much tougher. But I mean, with CVS, Walgreens, much tougher because Walmart owns that lot. CVS and Walgreens do not own the lots. They're just leasing. So they basically say, whatever. It's like it's not a responsibility. It's the gentleman from California. Who owns it.
The other question, if you can explain this real quickly, and if it doesn't have a simple explanation, don't worry about it. But how does a TIF relate to a TID?
Oh, that's a good question. I forgot to mention it. So really simple. First off, a TID is not a TIF. So a TID is a tax increment development district. The revenues that are generated in those districts can only be used for public infrastructure. So the new UNM tip, the city under that tip, the TID will be building curb and gutter, or they'll be building streetscapes, the public infrastructure. The power of the tip is you can do private and public. So that's the big difference. So we were always getting into that session about, is it a TID or is it a tip? Very easy to confuse the two.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So tax increment financing.
Tax increment financing, tax increment development. So,
But when you first started talking, you mentioned the marketplace. What are you talking about?
oh, I might have the wrong name for it. I'm sorry if I have it.
I just didn't know.
It's the place next to it's the marketplace next to the ACS building on the Catherine Santa Cruz.
Alex Horton's project.
IDCC.
So it's
Yeah.
not a place that already exists?
Being built, I thought.
What is it?
It's like food trucks, it's got a pedestrian entry gate,
North
walkway.
of the ACS building.
Yes,
If you see those,
Shipping
Shipping
containers.
containers.
it's going rather slowly.
yeah, like I said, we contributed a little bit to it. It's the city building, but I think it'll be utilized by local restaurants.
So it's like
Yeah.
stationary food trucks.
Yes. That's what I understand. Yeah, and then it has like a nicer pedestrian entryway off Catherine and whatever that parallel street is.
Do you have any idea if that's like a weekend thing, or if the plan is for it to be open like
Oh, no.
standard hours?
I don't know the details.
And I'm confused by what you said about the Walmart and CVS, that those companies, they're leasing the land that the stores are on. How is it more economically feasible for them or profitable for them to sit on and pay leases for 10 or 15 years than to give it up or do something with it? Or I mean, were they bleeding cash so badly
It's into
before
the
that?
arrangement with so the owners like. So I think that's
It's going to be worth millions.
the owners just going to keep collecting the payback.
So are you
As soon as we get rid of ours.
So, are you basically saying that nothing can be done on the corner of San Mateo and Central?
At the Walgreens site.
Yeah.
We will keep trying, but I'm just saying it's going to be difficult. Because the original offering price was $2 million. As soon as they started watching TV, things on TV that said that we were going to buy it, they jumped that price and doubled it. And I'm afraid it will continue to double. So I'm okay with being quiet about it for a while.
Walgreens,
The Walgreens site. Yeah.
so Walgreens can sell even. That's confusing. to me.
Walgreens is not on that site.
Right, so you're talking about the owner of the site.
The owner is a gentleman from California who owns several of these. And he's got a lease arrangement with them where they will guarantee pay him a certain amount for a certain amount of time, and they don't want to break the lease. Whatever that arrangement
So
is.
they
He prefers to
guarantee
collect creation.
They're guaranteed income,
Yes,
whether or not it's functioning. So, there's
it's cheaper
nothing-
for them to pay the lease than to operate a store as well.
So, and that is why we were mentioning that, like, letters from the neighborhood association to complain about the use of the parking lot, them not maintaining their fencing, them not providing 24 hours authority on the space because it's creating a problem. Then that makes that landowner have to
Yeah.
spend money and pay attention to it. And,
may not wanna do that.
and maybe that'll make them not want to.
Yeah, so it's okay, I think it's okay to try to put pressure on.
So if you feel like it's a problem in the neighborhood, then we encourage.
It's the worst corner ever. I mean, it's got all, one of the reasons Walgreens left was it's horrible. I would go to a different store.
Me too.
There's so much, so many vagrants, there's so many deals going on. And they come and go, and Walgreens try, I guess, to keep it clean, but we're having trouble in that corner and down to the Redevelopment. We're working on it,
Yeah.
but And we have empty buildings on Domingo, between San Mateo and San Pedro.
Okay.
They used to be office buildings, etc. And it's just an open spot. And then we ran into trouble about alleyways and found out, because we have an encampment there, we found out that the city doesn't own all the alleyways. The businesses can own a portion of it. So if somebody camps out on the portion of the alleyway that's behind a business that doesn't care and lets them stay there, there's nothing we can do about it. And that, the city doing anything about cleaning up that whole issue of alleyways?
Well, I mean, you alluded to this, the alleyways have a variety of owners.
Yeah.
So it's pretty difficult to track them all down. And, you know, it's the owner's responsibility to remove an encampment on their private property. So that makes it difficult. But yeah, I mean, there's alleyways that are throughout the city that are tough to deal with.
It can't be, police can't enter that property unless it's posted. That's another thing. A lot of them are not posted.
Right.
Question, just because this is probably a good crowd to ask it, in regard to that, can we propose any change to the language of the IDO as far as that, like property lines and alleyways? Responsible for that?
So, it's great that you asked that, because Rebecca Boland is your IDO person, and she has agreed to come and see you. And so we just have to decide how soon you want that.
I know it can help me remember that, like COVID brain will not, okay, yeah.
But, and if you want to, if you have your computer in front of you,
I do.
you want to send me a quick email, and I can try to get her to answer it sooner. But she said that she wanted to talk to you guys about the IDO stuff for this.
Maria?
She would-
Yeah, I recommend Patty Wilson. She really knows it.
Okay,
She really knows it.
do you know the answer?
Not offhand. You can't just change property lines.
Yeah.
Amendments. And so. The alley, please let Wally talk.
Yeah, he's been holding it down for a long
I'll
time.
talk to you.
I'm sorry, my arm is just.
I know, thank you, Molly.
I thought I understood you to say that the Walmart reasoning for closing down was it didn't fit their current sales approach program. With a property that size worth that much.
Whether it was worth its value, our appraisal that we just got in a month or so ago, valued it at 11.2. Yeah. Such a large.
Walmart can't they change that to fit whatever their marketing program is? I strongly believe in there. That is not anything but an excuse for getting out. Not the real truth.
Well, I mean, I don't know, all I can tell you is I know that retailers, grocery stores really have to stick with the times, and their product lines have to really be in tune with what people are buying. They gotta buy a lot. You gotta think about why the Carlisle store is open still, and why the Coors store is open, and the differences in the clientele. So you go to the Coors location, and the parking lot is full all the time. You know, I remember that the San Mateo location, I shopped there occasionally, it was not full.
And
So,
you make the same thing.
and then if you look at the merchandise is completely different.
Okay, so if they don't, I'm with Wally, and I think you may have just inadvertently said, look at the different clientele, because, and if they want to update their merchandise, why close down the whole store? Why not bring in their current line of merchandise?
No,
That doesn't make any more sense to me.
There, I mean, if you look
Clientele.
at the Walmarts now, you see that like half of it is grocery store and half of it is the other, you know, stuff that wasn't traditional Walmart scene. And now that store was one of the first Walmarts. And so in this city. And so it was no grocery, you know, very. It didn't have the garden center, the same level. It would have meant rebuilding the full facility. And so, you know, they closed them all across the country that were that model at scale.
And so it's also, you have to remember, it's a 20-year-old building. 20-year-old buildings can't use them. It's completely different.
And they
thing.
lose
So,
money on groceries. And they make money on the other side,
Right.
and they operate on a 1% profit margin.
so
That's
you
why
don't make
John
any
Brooks
money
gets
from
thrown out of
groceries.
the.
And I'm pretty sure in 20 years we stop being able to appreciate the building on the taxes, so it doesn't make any sense.
That's
Hold
true
on to
too.
it.
So if you go to the Walmart across from Albuquerque Academy, it's smaller, it's denser. There's things that are like on top of each other. The place over here is a very large building for that amount of people. And like I said, parking lot was not always full. So, they're looking for maximum numbers of people in there all the time. And so I think that's the difference. If you look at Smith's in the grocery store, Smith's is willing to expand on Yale and Lead or Cole or whatever it is, because they are packed and they have no more room in that building.
Oh, that's
So-
old Family Dollar,
Family
like old Family Dollar.
The old Family Dollar is
Okay.
sold.
That's
Um,
Oh,
Walmart at, San Mateo, I know from years ago, was cited by the fire department a lot because of the storage merchandise. And I accidentally, I wasn't supposed to go back there, but someone was helping me back. And there were bicycles and boxes. There was no organization. It was a death trap. And they got cited at least 2 times that I know. So the facility wasn't big enough for the merchandise, and they didn't work. Whether it wasn't big enough or they didn't care.
Well, part of it is that, they have to decide how much do we want to invest in the rehab, and do we need bigger loading docks? Do we need more parking spaces or, egress or whatever it is? So those are all things that they take into consideration. They're a very large corporation with a lot of stores. So I assume shutting down 20 or 40 nationwide is
But to
something
their
that would-
credit, they fenced it, and there's security there 24/7. And I'm so upset with Walgreens.
Better than the alternative.
Yeah.
I
what-
just have a question. When you were talking about, with the Walmart Government Affairs Office, the possibility that it could be a philanthropic endeavor to donate it to the people. If they were to do that, then does it have to be utilized or repurposed or built for community purposes, or can it be anything at that point?
It just depends what they put in the agreement.
Okay, but when they do that type of thing, have you seen it in the past, like historically, what they tend to make part of that agreement?
Well, generally, what would happen in the past is this could change. It's not written in stone that you make a proposal to say we have to see following things on the site. And we think we would and make that argument that they would then take to their board, because their board is going to decide whether or not to expose the property.
I want to thank Terry.
Yeah, very.
He's doing great work, and I think if there are any follow-up questions, we can always finish on. Your email is
Terry Brunner, it's 2 R's, 2 R's.
at
No I. No I.
That's I think I did spell it right. Yeah. So
It's just one word at cbakdp.gov.
yeah, so you have
Is that his
contact.
code?
If you think of any law that you're excited about or know somebody. I'm sorry, what was the email address again?
TERRY BRUNNER cbakdp.gov. If you send something to me and I don't get back to you for some reason, or if it gets lost, just don't worry. Well, it's
Your email again.
Harry, would you send
my card.
the addresses to CVS, Walmart,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
and Walgreens, because we will see the
Okay.
letters.
All right, that's a good idea.
although what I'm hearing Terry, who would be in charge of, the security for those sites? Would it be Walgreens and CVS, or would it be the California?
Depends on what their agreement is.
Okay.
So let me just say that these are very complicated. It took us 8 months to a year to find the owner of that property. That's how we later speed on shift through, find that person. We randomly called and they took the phone. So these are very funky arrangements. They aren't real logical and straightforward. So they're difficult places to figure out.
And
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, Terry. All right, so I'm gonna circulate the sign-in sheet again, because if you want to be part of the planning for the Squeeze neighborhood, we want you to put your star next to your name. And if you have somebody you think should be part of it, who's not with us tonight, you can make a note on your back, and we'll try to follow up and see how to get hold of that person. But Joseph asked me specifically, check in with this group to see who wants to be part of that plan. Because you know, your old hat is a lot of this. You've had a lot of experience at it. So we think you can bring some really valuable. So, who didn't get a map? Okay, so I'm sorry. I have really good copies of the map, and then I have a copy for it cut off part of it. So that's not. It's the printed copy. Are there more copies of it here? Are these? Here they are. Never mind. Oh, keep that one. This is a good one. There you go.
John will.
Did you guys get them? Here you go. Thank you. You got one, Mike?
I have two.
You have two.
I printed one at home.
Okay. If anybody.
Building across the street that was.
Okay. So, does this cover what you guys had in mind?
Dr. Valero just said.
Melinda, is that for you?
Like the youngest mapper.
It still doesn't really extend to Parkland Hills, but I don't.
Doesn't go all the way.
It's much better than just barely across Gibson, which it's turned out being.
Yeah.
But it's closer.
It's the half mile from all of the points in it. That's what I asked them.
Oh, I know. I know, like, when we were in the meeting, it was just some of those things, like I said, I'm just gonna keep pushing forward to like all the neighborhoods.
Okay.
I know he was only able to confirm this much.
Yeah.
But I said, awesome, but we will keep pushing until all the neighborhoods that are part of the GNA are part. I just think that's.
Please pass on this very, I mean, this is pretty quick.
Yeah.
At our last meeting, and here it is, so.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
We are trying to
Right,
meet
you'll
your
ask me to
expectations. If we're not exceeding.
So, now that the, boundaries have been extended, are the encampment teams, from here, are they starting to go now on a daily basis
So
onto
we
this
were waiting
new?
for you guys to say, yes, this is what we asked for. This looks right. We didn't screw anything up because clearly the Boston lives in South. So,
No.
you did ask for the boundaries for the half mile to go from the boundary. That was what you asked for, and then what was agreed to. This map is reflecting that.
Depicting that, but the
Right.
original ask. Come on.
Right. Right. So this is where we are now. And so now I have a map that I can share with Leon and the team based here who go and drive that and then report 3 times a week when they have a meeting, things that they're seeing, and get those reports daily to our solid waste. So the solid waste team are the ones that go do the outreach to the encampments that's required by city policy now. So we go do outreach.
72 hours.
If it's on public property, if it's on private property, and the private property owner has already posted on no trespassing signs or anything, they don't want people there, then it's an immediate clear out. If it is on public property and it is blocking transportation corridors, bicycle paths, walking paths, roads, that is only a 1 to 2 hours.
Just bridge gotten better.
Is the bridge still done?
It's still fenced.
Yeah, it was great now. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not great now.
There's more.
It's
You know
blocked off.
why, Maria?
Great.
Why is
Okay,
it?
there's something.
My understanding, I actually don't know why. I was not in any of those meetings. My understanding is TMD closed the bridge as part of other construction things that they're putting together, but I don't know what that is.
People work on quite a bit on that.
It is
bridge, and that's part of it. I understand
Yeah,
that's there, whenever people camping on it.
Yeah.
That's what was talked about, is how bad it
Yeah, it
was.
was.
Instead of fixing it, just close it.
You know, everybody in this room and everybody they know want it open.
They want that bridge.
They want
open.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So, can I ask if the neighborhoods have actually expressed that to
I actually had a conversation with
your
Doug,
city council?
with Doug Small at the International Library when we had this conversational things. And he said that what is it, the DMD?
The Department of Metropolitan Development.
Yeah, he never, all these.
Yeah, yeah, I was just told they don't do, the traffic engineers make the plans based on traffic best practices.
So he had said because the hog fight is supposedly working. And what he has seen is people are just randomly crossing anywhere, wherever it is. And I'm like, well, then doesn't it make sense to have the bridge open? Because that's halfway between the two big intersections. It's better to walk here, go over the bridge than to have to walk all the way down up here. Across. And so he said he was going to try to find out that answer. And I still haven't heard from him. But I thought now that we have this extended and the encampment teams are now having to go further to that half mile, that now the bridge could be open. So if there are encampments on there every day, these people can find those 3 times a week.
And I did send him an email. Followed up on that. You know, Eastern and Columbus, have you seen it recently? Jeff, have you seen that?
Yeah.
Oh my, it's almost like Utah and Chief. It's, there's a lot of people.
Okay, so, okay, what other concerns? I don't think I have enough copies. They're probably on the printer now. But I did make, you guys got these? These are the, 311, tracking that you guys asked for. And so we should start having these monthly. And what we were talking about doing next month is looking at time stats and what time stats we want to look at tracking as a baseline for ongoing. So I'm sorry I don't have enough of these guys. I did put 25 to be printed, but it did that. I can attach it. Take mine. I don't need it. Thank you. I can attach it to the calendar invite so that you guys have this as well. And then Carrie has said that she would do them monthly, and I probably would have had one, but I forgot to tell her that the meeting date changed earlier than initial plan. So if she gets it to me next week, I will get it out. You'll have the main staff. So is it people? So also, well, I will figure out if this is the next number or not, but she's gonna do it ongoing. Stuff. Okay, so we'll try to have that so that you can really add, where the numbers higher and lower, how are things going and how they contribute before. So I think an important thing for us looking at these is to look at what is the general trend as well as where it's specific that you see that it's modern. So it's not just giving both levels. Yeah.
Is the team that's gonna be controlling this zone, are they getting these 311 calls or are they seeing those things? Or-
So, no, the team, well, yes and no. We have a team here that goes and controls and reports to our Interact team that is solid waste. How many of you are familiar with the Interact? Okay, so it's newly named, I don't know what it's called before, honestly, but this is a group of people who are solid waste. They go to do direct outreach to the encampment, offering them resources. People were required to offer resources to everybody prior to moving them or requiring them to do it. And so they go offer the resources, try to talk to them, try to connect with them. If the people take resources, they contact ACS, arrange transport, arrange storage, storage, and go that next step. If they do not accept assistance, then they are considered to be voluntarily unhoused. And at that point, they are given a notice that they have to clear within the time frame, either a 2-hour time frame if they're blocking pedestrian access, riding access, driving access, bike access, or if they're adjacent to a park, a school, or I'm trying to think of the ones. Those are the main ones. And then 72 hours notice if it's in a public property that isn't meeting that immediate clearance criteria.
It might be a really good idea to have them get that photo to real memory reports. My thought, because our neighborhood, our residents frequently report things on there, so that information is
So
going
the
right.
Interact team gets all 311 reports, and they are going out to those citywide. Okay? And so they're covering this area first. When I covered it, they have people assigned to each quadrant of the city. They have priority areas that they start with each day. Then they are coordinating with the solid waste. It's a large enough encampment, if there are known to be weapons, other issues that make it more serious, it's coordinating with the area community. ACS usually does their outreach ahead of the cleanup date and time because we just want for the outreach people to not be associated with the enforcement people the same way. It actually is known that it works better that way. So the ACS team over that 72-hour period, they're going to do outreach once or twice before that 72 hours is passed. When the 72 hours is passed, they're going to return and say, you have your 72 hours back now.
So we're moving from 2 days a week down to 3.
Yes and no. I mean, usually there's more than one team working on your area. There's a team based here that is driving the streets and reporting them in time for each of our encampment meetings, which are coordinated with the officers and with the solid waste people. It's the key players from who be present and make it work. So it's the first people, we get encampment team, solid waste, or because it has to be a really coordinated effort.
Well, they asked last was 7 days a week.
You're asked for 7
Yes,
days.
7 days a week because it just doesn't stop. And I have great empathy for those things. I pulled over. I didn't really talk to them this time, but I just put myself in their shoes. I do, but I mean, there's got to be another alternative or better alternative. And if you notice the businesses, the fences up. So that's the only thing they can do to keep the property. So,
It's a struggle. I mean, sadly nationwide, we're struggling.
Yeah.
The solid waste, there no I saw a small solid waste truck. Is that what this is about? Those big, excuse me. Is that the kind of solid waste pickup vehicle that they're using? Kind of thing?
Sometimes it depends on how much, there is that they're picking up. It depends on if they have houses, like that. But they do have a pickup truck where they can load some stuff on, and then they also have a small like dumpster truck that has a compactor built in. Yeah, so they have a combination.
I've seen that in my neighborhood when it's stopped and they cleaning up after these guys who are on that sidewalk. Yeah, working. Yeah, I wondered where the smaller space trucks. were coming
Right,
from.
so that's specific for the account. Yeah. Big questions? Okay. Okay, so we have to agree on what are we doing next month. So I want to remind you, I won't be here. The Dutch Small and the Regional Controller is next month. We were talking about having our APD trying people work with us. Are we still good on that? Now they have the calendar and we've invited them. So I want to make sure that what the conversation is around is sort of similar to what we did with Terry Crawford, where we are identifying what are the key stats that we're going to try to keep track of on a monthly basis, and hopefully get a fun report that we can get quarterly or monthly update. Right? We can do that. They are the analysis. They're going to tell us what we can do and how we can do it and how we can pull the report so that we can have an ongoing look at it. We have real data. And they'll be able to compare this area to the rest, other quadrants like that, which I think will be helpful too. So,
Is the pallet project go? The housing project?
is it
Yeah,
a go?
it is go.
I don't know if they started that, and so I know they're working on it, but I don't know that it has gotten to the point where they've
That's-
actually purchased the
I
property.
I thought it was an I-25 property that they had.
At this point, my understanding is it's a city property. No, it's not a city, it's a state property. Off of
They
the-
did a switch.
I do not believe the switch has occurred.
Okay.
So, and that's probably close. So, so they're working on that. I don't know that they have decided to use pallet cones or if they are thinking of one of the other prefab ones that are similar to pallet cones, because that's actually a big part for
Yeah.
one kind of pallet one, but there's like boxables and there's some others that are different quality and different layouts, and I think they're just trying to finalize what that is. They are going to use opioid funds for that, and so folks who have some history of use will have the use of that space. And I believe they're working on a 50 home.
Yes.
Yeah.
And where's that gonna be located?
The location is a little like this right now, but it's off I-25. Somewhat close to the big I, but not exactly.
It's not over here.
Oh, the old.
It's not over here. It's not in this area.
I-25 and I-40.
It's kind of within sort of that area by I-40 and in the big I.
What were those acronyms again? TIP and TIP?
Tax increment financing is a tip. And tax increment development district. And so both of them are ways that you take a portion of taxes or that the area approves a slight increase in their residency taxes finances. So it's a thing that happens in the different spaces. Property owners agree to, is it more of a property owner tax that's part of their property tax?
Yeah,
Staff,
Yeah.
okay, so anyway, yeah.
this is, and I don't understand very well, if the developer gets a break.
Yeah.
It's similar to the incentives in MR.
Okay. Oh, you are, did everybody get a star next to your name? Sorry, that's just my user way when I get stuff right. Oh, absolutely. Okay, all right, so next meeting is June 27th. And Laura and some of our AP folks from the Southeast area, we have a new lieutenant who's Southeast area. And the crime analyst will be with her. And then Doug Small will facilitate. So, and then July, do you guys want the solid waste guys? Or would you rather have the IDO people from planning? IDO? Okay, because Rebecca said she'd be happy to come. So do you want to, I asked at the new ACF building if it would be ready for the June meeting, and they said, oh no. So I'll see if we can do the July meeting there, and if not, we can do the August. So we'll plan for one of those. Because they didn't have like doors on the areas, so they were finishing it.
They might be able to now if you're from
Yeah, we're getting near to it. The size of this group we wanted to, but well,
Because it'll be late July. It'll be late July. So, okay. Yeah, so that'll be good. And then if you guys want also the Black leadership conference, just open their place right here on Gibson, and they have a meeting room that they've offered.
Wow.
So I don't know if you guys want to pop around a little bit to some of the other places or not. And it's so kind of fun to see other resources that are coming online. All right, thank you guys. Also, I wanted to just tell you real, oh, Wally, sorry. Go ahead.
I would like to open that discussion up that we were having before the meeting for this round, because they've all been, most of them have been involved.
Oh, Wally raised a question earlier today asking why he didn't receive a notification that he might have been exposed to asbestos during a tour of the building. And so I checked with Doug Chaplin, who is the manager of this and has been overseeing a lot of this. And he said that his perception was that they did a super comprehensive look at everybody who had toured different parts of the building during different phases of construction. And so part of it is, when were you there and what part of the building, whether or not you had a risk of exposure. And so so Doug said, if anybody has a concern that you did not receive a notice and you think you might have been exposed, you just need to tell me when you were here and what part of the building you were in, so that we can then check on the calendar and see if you should have been notified, or if you were notified and you didn't get it. So like that's what we have to do on that. So we were trying to figure out, you said it was when Christina Patterson was still here.
Yeah, Carol Pierce gave us the tour, because we went through the whole.
Yeah, 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, and it was at least twice, but this group.
Then after that.
Yeah, okay.
We went with Christina and you went with Carol,
Uh-huh,
and
No, we were right in the middle of it.
right.
Which I've been right in the middle of it too, but it was during a time when they were not doing anything with the asbestos in that space. And so that's why I've been told I don't need to worry about it. So, but if you were there at different times and you are concerned, I just need to know what part of the building you were in and when you were there. And if you can't remember the exact date, but it was after the meeting in March, I can go back to March of last year, see when that meeting was, and let Doug know, and then they can backtrack and figure it out.
But wouldn't self-identification be sufficient? I know he was there. I saw him. I saw Donna as well. I saw.
I think it was in December.
I'm saying exactly that.
December.
I think it was December of 21.
The question is not just, did you tour the building? Because it is, there are times when the building was entirely safe. There are parts of the building that were not, there was no exposure issues. There are parts of the building where there were exposure issues on after the asbestos getting disturbed. So that's my understanding.
Well, we.
So we can just
took
find the dates.
We took the tour on their conference, so the tile had been disturbed. Yeah,
You know, when I inquired afterwards, or when they came out in the news, I was told, oh, don't worry about it, it's such a minimal amount, we're really not concerned. That concerned.
and
That's
concern
just
is
not, okay.
if there's even a chance of being exposed, and then you can.
Well, it's just, it's all
There's a lawsuit.
responsible.
There's a lawsuit. I understand.
So what I'm saying is that in response, I checked to see what do we need to do? And what we need to do is we need to know when you were there and where you were.
Okay, thank you.
And if you tell me that, even if you tell me it was around this time and this is where I went, then I should be able to go back through the minutes of these meetings, figure out what the date was, and then he can check with the contractor and see where we were. That's the goal. Okay, okay, okay.